I have wanted to do this for so long. Second-hand Bonneville versus the Interceptor. Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today's a special day because I have got one of my all-time favourite bikes. A bike that I first tested about 2 years ago, but I've never tested it on the YouTube channel. And here is finally the day. The Royal Enfield Interceptor. Now, I know, I'm a bit late to the party here because this bike now has actually been out for about 3 years. And it's a bike that I've been wanting to get on the show for a while. So I am over the moon to finally have it. And it's been 2 years since I've ridden it. And first impressions after those 2 years, when I did 1,000 miles on an Interceptor, so I know them well, my first impressions, I forgot how damn good looking it is. It's an incredibly good looking bike. I also forgot how nice a bike it is to ride. So let's give the lowdown on this bike. It's a 650cc, it's twin, it's air cooled, it's injected. It's now £6,039 for the cheapest model. This version with the chrome tank, this is a £500 option, which is gigantic when you consider it's roughly 8 to 10% of the value of the entire bike, and I thought maybe it's not needed. But then you get to it and you see it in the flesh, and I don't know if it will come up so well. It's art. It's beautiful. I love the black detailing with the gold lines on either side and then this chrome finish. And I should say, massive thanks for this bike, Easy Rider Tenerife. This bike they've kindly given me for the afternoon to test out. An Easy Rider Tenerife, if you ever come here to Tenerife, which is a riding paradise, just the most gigantic selection of modern classic motorbikes on offer, from Ducatis, Harley Davidsons, Triumphs, Royal Enfields, huge selection, so go and check them out. And this is obviously one of their bikes, and I do know that Adam, the owner, especially likes this with the chrome tank, because whenever you're out on a ride with this, it's incredibly easy to check yourself out. So it's got two benefits there. Right, now, this is important. Used pricing. You can now pick up a second-hand Royal Enfield Interceptor for £4,500. New they're 6,000, so they have dropped to £1,500. And this is important to where I'm getting in the video. Before I get to the second bit of the video, Monica, don't pan over, let me do a walk around of this bike. What do you get as new for £6,000 or second-hand 4.5k, because they're still pretty much the same. There haven't been any big revisions. Right, spoked wheels. Plastic mudguard, but it's a good-looking mudguard with, and I like this black plastic extension here, and that you can screw off just with 3 screws, and it turns it into a short front mudguard, so you don't need to go out and buy a shorter front mudguard. Classic front headlamp there, circular chrome surround, indicators, you know, they're well designed. Honestly, I'm starting to like the look of these classic bikes the way they are. You know, these borderline ridiculously big wing mirrors. They do such a lovely job of just being able to see behind you. And in chrome, it's retro, it's of its time. I don't think I'd change them, really, I don't. Dual clocks on the front, speedometer and rev counter. Yeah, sorry, Monica, I'll get you to flip round here. As simple as it gets. I mean, you've got a rev counter on the right. It's a proper fuel gauge, to be fair to them. Even the BMW R9T, for some reason, can't manage to do a proper fuel gauge, so that is one up on the BMW R9T. Tank, you can see here, looks beautiful. Lovely finish of that. Bearing in mind, this is... Now, I got in trouble for saying a cheap bike on the meter video. I will not say cheap once in this video. This is an incredibly reasonably priced bike, even at £6,000 new. Chrome tank. Switch gear, as basic as you can get, but all you need, nothing wrong with it at all. Notice no extra buttons for any rider modes or anything at all like that. You've just got this one button in the middle, but you're not going to get much there. Odometer, trip A, trip B, boom, that's it. Literally like going back 10 years. The engine itself, air-cooled, just check, twin. Air-cooled twin engine with the old school vents there, chrome engine surrounds, two big, so exhausts on either side of the bike here, huge chrome exhausts. This will divide people a bit, but I don't think I'd change them. It's a very, very subtle sound. I think they look good. They are a bit wider, so filtering through traffic, I remember when I had it last time, you can feel it a bit when filtering through traffic with that size. Rear light cluster, again, it's not an ugly thing. Do you know, I don't even know if I'd change that. It's not that bad a looking thing with a grab rail on the back. Lovely seat, really nice seat with stitching on the back. A good amount of give, twin shocks, and that lovely Royal Enfield logo on the side. Right, Monica, I tell you what, Monica, stand there. The big reason for this video. Wait 1 second, Monica. I'm going there. I have wanted to do this for so long. Second-hand Bonneville versus the Interceptor. This is what I care about now. Questions that I want to answer in my head from this video. This is the real key. What would I buy? A brand new Interceptor or a used Bonneville? Or what would I buy? A brand new Interceptor or a brand new Bonneville, and take the extra hit that the Bonneville costs. Prices. The Bonneville was updated in 2016 to become water-cooled. That was a huge upgrade. That was basically an all-new bike. This bike, as it stands, this is a 2010 model, but even up to 2015, it's pretty much exactly the same. So, in reality, you can go out and buy a brand new Interceptor for $6,000 for the same price as a 2013, 2014 model of this exact bike. Air-cooled, twin, injected. Air-cooled, twin, injected. No rider modes, no rider modes. £4,200 to £6,000. £4,500 and upwards. As a used proposition, these are incredibly closely matched. 47 horsepower to 65 horsepower, 225 kilograms with fuel compared to 213 kilograms with fuel. Where to start? Okay. They're incredibly similar to look at. The circular front headlamp, just the rough proportions of the bikes and the overall looks. You can't call, for me in my mind, what's a better looking bike. I think they both look absolutely incredible. I remember this from last time. I just want to see if it's still true. Okay. I think it is, it's true. The weight on the Interceptor is noticeably higher. This is a noticeable difference. If you look at me here, I'm 6'1" and 80 kilos, just to give you a rough idea of my size. Look at where I'm positioned here, the bend in my legs and the overall size of the bike. The Interceptor's wheelbase is shorter and the rear seat is a little bit shorter as well. But look at the bend in my legs. The seat height for this bike, the Interceptor, is higher. It's got a higher seat height. So if you're shorter, funnily enough, the Bonneville will actually be easier to maneuver. Plus the fact that the Bonneville's weight is lower down. So I can easily maneuver the Bonneville, especially around town. It feels more manageable because the weight is so much lower. On the Interceptor, the seat height is higher and the weight of the bike's higher. And that means you can really feel that extra weight when maneuvering it. So funnily enough, this is noticeably easier to maneuver than the Interceptor. How does the extra, probably 12 kilos of the Bonneville compare when maneuvering it with that lower situated weight? I'm curious. So, and also watch for the lean angle and compare this. So, This is pathetic. I'm not even holding it. The Bonneville's just holding itself. The lean angle on the Bonneville, I could actually let go. That's it. That's all you get. But because the weight's so low down, why? It's actually, you could almost do it with one hand. One hand. Now, because the Interceptor is not my bike, and I don't want to get beaten up for damaging it, I shall be as gentle as possible. So, with the higher weight, can you, I don't know if you want to come more straight, Monica. Oh, it's lower. There. Lean angle of the Interceptor. Why? It's slightly more difficult. It's not ridiculously bad compared to the Bonneville. It's certainly not a game changer, but for slow speed maneuvering, Bonneville does slightly get it. Okay, in reality, what is the difference like? 47 horsepower to 65 horsepower. I always say in my mind 65 horsepower is about my absolute ideal. Let's get this on the road. Monica's going to be on the back. Let's see if 47 horsepower is actually enough. Also, what's it like on the road, and is Monica comfortable on the back? This bike, if you compare it to the Bonneville, it really does have a significant amount more character than even my air-cooled Bonneville. And if you compare it to the water-cooled new Bonnevilles, this really does kind of knock it out the park with character. It's got that old school charm. How is the 47 horsepower compared to 65? Well, it does make a difference, and you do notice it. For example, when you're on these beautiful open roads, you're changing down and changing up gear more often. You want to make sure when you're attacking a bend here, you're at the exact right angle. You're attacking it from the outside and then sweeping into the inside, because every horsepower on this bike matters, and that in itself is not a negative. It's actually quite a magical thing, because bikes like this, they take me back in my mind to what I think it would be like riding a motorbike in the 50s and 60s, where you don't have the luxury of having so much power, where you can attack a bend at any angle, it doesn't matter, because within half a second of being out of the corner, you're doing 120 miles an hour. No, this one, you feel it if you don't attack the bend at the right angle and if you slightly mess up your approach. Every horsepower matters with this bike, and it's so engaging because you feel so finely tuned with everything. You want to make sure every gear change is perfect. Every little bit of lean that you can get out of the bike is perfect. The limitations with that power, let me give you the best example I can. In 3 years of having the Bonneville, I've never ever, with the 65 horsepower, I've never felt a need that I would ever need even 1 horsepower more, ever. With this bike, today when having the bike, and also when I had it last time, there are some times on the motorway, especially if you're riding 2 up, that it would be nice to have a bit extra horsepower when overtaking. However, it is not an essential. This bike will very happily do 80, 85 with no issue riding 2 up on the motorway. Funnily enough, the only times I would ever need more horsepower than this, and I'm going to blame this on other bikers, it's the fault of the fast bikes. It's the fast bike's fault that I would ever feel that I would need more horsepower. Because if you're going up by yourself and you're enjoying this bike by yourself, it's a joy. It's the perfect amount of horsepower and everything is perfectly in tune. But if you're going out with a few friends who are on, for example, Kawasaki Z900s, BMW GSs, there are some times on real roads even that you'll get left. I remember going out on the Royal Enfield Interceptor and a friend of mine had a Kawasaki Z900. And on 90% of the entire 3-hour ride that we did, this bike was perfectly happy keeping up with him in real road conditions, small, tight English country lanes. It was absolutely perfect. I didn't need another horsepower. And then we come up to a roundabout and we both attacked the roundabout at the same time, and he powered out of the roundabout and within 3 seconds he was beyond the horizon and he was only a dot in the horizon. That is the difference in power between a 130 horsepower motorbike and this 47 horsepower motorbike. But in reality, for me personally, unless I'm going out with friends, this is all the power that I'd need. And I know some people with this bike, they could say that, oh, you know, the suspension components, the brakes, you know, they're fairly budget. Yeah, but you don't need any more. For me, it's part of the feel of the bike. This is a simple old school bike and the suspension is good enough. It's no better than that, but it's good enough. It's part of the charm of the bike. It's fairly basic suspension, but it's a fairly basic bike and it's in keeping with what the bike is. Similarly, the brakes. Just like my Bonneville, it's a single-sided brake, and I promise you, for anything less than 70 horsepower, you never need any more than one single-sided disc on the front. And these are, well, it's not even a brand on them, but you know what? They're perfectly good enough. I wouldn't change anything about this brake suspension or anything. You know what? The more I'm with it, the more I think I wouldn't change anything about it at all. I really, really do like it. And a big thing about this, there are very, very few motorbikes now on the modern day market that are genuinely old school. Let me give you an example. This is, in my opinion, one of the only motorbikes currently for sale that feels genuinely old school. This is an old school bike with modern reliability, whereas the new Triumph range are thoroughly modern motorcycles dressed up to look old. And that's a big differentiation, and that really does change the feel of the bike. This does feel like you're riding a bike from the 50s or 60s, but with the modern day reliability, whereas, you know, the Triumphs, if you put the Triumph Bonneville in a different suit, yeah, it could probably be a Kawasaki or Honda because it's so smooth and it's so refined. This is very, very different. This is such a superb bike, I really mean it. Every second riding it is a joy, and just standing back looking at it or having a coffee and looking at it, for me it's one of the best looking bikes on the market. I really, really do mean that. And if I compare it to the Bonneville's a better bike in every single area. The Bonneville is, let's say, 15 to 20% better in every area. It's 15 to 20% more refined. The quality of the materials are 20% better. The power is noticeably more. But you do get to a point, and this is what I've realized riding the Interceptor, you do get to a point with quality where you start to realize, does X amount extra quality translate into X amount more enjoyment? You know, if you look at this at £6,000, let's start off. This at £6,000 brand new compared to £8,300 for the Street Twin or £9,400 for the Triumph T100, the Bonneville T100. How important is that extra £3,000 that you're spending on the Triumph T100? I can see where all the quality and all the extra money has been spent on the Triumph. I can. That is obvious. But do I need it? That's a different question that I've started thinking as I've been riding the Interceptor. You know, maybe me, the kind of rider I am, maybe this is perfect. Maybe I don't need that extra X amount of quality from a motorbike to actually go out there and be able to enjoy it. You know, this Interceptor really does give me every single ounce of that feel-good, cool vibe that the Bonneville gives. You know, when I'm riding it around, I feel, you know, at least in my mind, I feel every bit as cool as if I had a Bonneville. So from a cool vibes, good looks point of view, I think this is absolutely on point and at a level with the Bonneville. I couldn't call it at all. It's just a very, very nice bike to ride all the time. And we get down to the comparison with the Bonneville. Look, the Bonneville is this bike, but 15 to 20% better, probably in every area. The quality of the fit and finish on the Bonneville probably is about 15 to 20% better in most of the areas. The extra power that you get from the Bonneville, it's noticeable. And the difference in power, in reality, what that means is the 65 horsepower of the Bonneville, that means that it's very comfortable two-up riding and it's still got plenty of pull for overtaking on the motorways, and it's almost always got an excess of power, an extra bank of power in case you need it to get out of situations. Sometimes with the 47 horsepower on the Interceptor, you can find that you don't have that extra oomph, that extra bit of pull to get you out of situations. So there is a chance that in 1 or 2 years with this 47 horsepower, you may feel like you want to upgrade to a slightly more powerful motorbike. Whereas on the Bonneville with 65 horsepower, me personally having it for 3 years, I've never ever felt the need to increase the horsepower. I think it's the perfect amount. On this, you may feel differently. So we get to the point. What would I pick? A brand new Interceptor at £6,000, or would I decide to put myself into a significant amount more debt and go for the £9,400 Triumph T100? And that will come down to your personal finances. Look, if it's me and if I have the money, I go for the T100. It's a better bike all round. It's also a better all-round bike because it's longer wheelbase, means it's got a longer seat, so it's more comfortable for 2 people. Its extra power means it can get you out of more situations, and it's always got a reserve bank of power, and it is a significantly more comfortable long-distance tourer. Although I should say this bike is more than good enough to do everything from European tours to commuting and everything in between. So if I've got the money, I go for the T100. If money's tighter, this is not a poor substitute at all. This is a perfectly good bike in its own right. I would completely understand if there's a millionaire and he has to pick between the Interceptor and the T100 and he goes with the Interceptor. And the reason I say that is because this does have more character than the Bonnevilles. This is a more characterful bike, so I would understand if someone picks this over the Bonnevilles 100%. And now we get down to the second question. Would I pick, or what would I pick, a second-hand Triumph at £6,000, 2013-2014 model, or the Interceptor? And my answer again, and I'm thinking on the spot here, my answer would have to be the Bonneville again. And the reason is because quality doesn't diminish with age. So the Bonneville's quality, even on my 2010 model, the Bonneville's quality is still at a more premium level than the Interceptors, and that stays true whether it's a 10-year-old bike or a 5-year-old bike. So if we're looking at, if we're looking at an 8 or 9-year-old Bonneville versus a brand new Interceptor, I would still go with the Bonneville for the exact reasons before. It is still more refined, that extra power is useful, and it is more comfortable for 2-up. So there you have it. Royal Enfield. This is a game-changing bike when it came out. It won the Modern Retro of the Year from MCN in 2020 for a reason. It's an incredibly good bike. The Bonneville is still a better bike, but what Royal Enfield have done is just incredible, bringing genuinely cool old school charm to the masses. I love it so much. You know what this bike is? This is a very, very rare thing. It's like, for me, it's like the original Mini that came out in the 1960s, when you could see a mother of 4 children or 3 children with a small little Mini carting the children around, or you could get a rock star in a Mini. It's classless. It transcends classes, and that's what this bike does. That is an incredibly rare thing to be able to do. And we'll end it there. I'd just like to say, thank you so much to everyone for all of the likes and the comments. It may seem like an insignificant thing just to click like or write a comment, but they are hugely appreciated and they help the channel so much. So thank you so much for every input that you have with the channel. And thank you so much for coming along with us today. I really hope you enjoyed the video and found it useful. Please do give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next one.